There was a chemical leak into a river a mile above the water treatment plant, and it contaminated the water supply for like the whole market, like 400,000 people.
Wow.
My biggest mistake on air,
Wrong
I
names.
think I was 6 months in and they threw to me live and I had my notes on my phone, and my phone died. I just, it came to me and I just froze up because my phone was dead. I didn't have my notes and I just kind of stood there and I didn't know what to do. And I walked out of the frame of the camera. And yeah, it was a horrible moment.
If you could go back.
I learned from it.
I was
You
gonna say,
learned from it.
Welcome to another episode of Scaling Secrets. Today we got Dan Matics with us. He's got over 15 years of broadcasting experience. We're actually going to talk about his career change and what that was like changing from one career to another. So Dan, we're really excited to have you. Welcome to Otter PR first
Thank
off. Walk us through that career decision of changing your job.
Oh, this is the most we've talked. I feel like I've been here for a month.
I know.
This is the most we've actually talked. I think the jury's still kind of out. I'm still getting still getting my bearings on everything, but I'm loving it so far, for sure.
What made you want to change careers? 'Cause I know that's a scary thing to start with something you've known your entire life, basically your entire professional life, to move to something new.
So the way I look at it is like I don't really think it was that big of a career change. I mean, I think people kind of in the news world like to say, "Oh, okay, news PR, they're two different things," and really they are. But I think for me, it's not necessarily done with news and journalism.
Right.
Obviously, when it doesn't conflict, that's crucial. But I think it's just kind of maybe reinventing myself a little bit. There's the media landscape's changing drastically. I think you can watch CNBC or Bloomberg for 15 minutes and you'll hear I think streaming's been incredibly disruptive, and maybe taking a step back and learning a different skill set, it was a good time to do so.
Yeah, I think so. And having kind of multiple tools in your tool chest.
Yeah, exactly.
So when you change jobs, it's really, honestly, quitting is scary. I think a lot of people
Yeah.
get really scared to quit. What was that process like, and what made you kind of comfortable making the change?
Well, I mean, we started having conversations like maybe a year and a half ago about this. And yeah, I mean, it was kind of, I think it was really a good like 5 months of, am I going to do this? Am I not going to do it? I think a lot of it was also location. I wasn't really happy in the city that I was living in, and coming back to Tampa, St. Pete area was that was a driving force behind it. But also I think, news is, journalists are hardworking people. It can be a bit of a grind. I don't think that's any secret. No one's going to lie about that. That's in the industry. And for me, this is just a little bit more flexibility for where I am in life and what I'm looking to get out of life. So it made sense.
Tell us about your broadcasting experience. Where were you reporting? What were you reporting on?
So I started in West Virginia. Most people who start in TV news, at least, they start in a small market. So I started in actually it was a medium-sized market at the time. And then started in West Virginia. And then I'd spent the majority of my time at the Fox-owned station in Tampa. And then I did a short stint in North Carolina at the Cox Media Group station there.
Okay.
And then just wasn't too much. Charlotte was okay. It wasn't great. And decided to make the decision to come back.
What's the craziest thing you've reported on before?
On a national level? Okay. So
anything you're just like, wow, I can't believe I'm reporting on this right now.
early in my career, there was a chemical leak into a river a mile above the water treatment plant, and it contaminated the water supply for like the whole market, like 400,000 people.
Wow.
And it was a big national story. Like, it led the evening news nationally, and the water smelled like licorice because it was a coal cleaning agent that got into the water supply. So nobody could drink the water. Nobody could shower.
Oh, wow. No control.
And working through that and having to go without driving an hour to take a shower. That was crazy, just because we were living it and also reporting on it. And at that point I was still kind of learning how to report. So it was kind of, it was definitely something that kind of sticks out a little bit.
What got you into news in the first place?
Always wanted to do it, really, since third grade. I thought, it was kind of exciting. I remember watching Peter Jennings on 9/11 as a kid and was like, wow, he's got an important job. And that's kind of what got me into it. I've always had that drive to do it.
Awesome. So we do a lot of media training here at Otter
Right.
PR. One of the things I always like to ask professionals is, what's your biggest mistake on air?
My biggest mistake on air,
Wrong names.
I think, well, that always, I mean, that's going to happen here and there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you're going to mispronounce something. There was a time, it was like I was 6 months in and they threw to me live and I had my notes on my phone, like, and my phone died.
Oh no.
But this was like a very, you know, it was a very fact oriented story. Like it was stuff you couldn't get wrong. And, I just, like, it came to me and I just froze up because my phone was dead. I didn't have my notes and I just kind of stood there and I didn't know what to do. And I walked out of the frame of the camera and, yeah, it was a horrible moment.
If you could go back,
I learned from it.
I
You
was
know,
gonna
you
say,
learned from it.
What did you learn?
This was like 13 years ago, you know, so.
If you go back in time and kind of correct that, obviously, besides your phone dying, what would you have done differently on camera?
I feel like, you know, after enough experience, you just kind of remember things and you're just more, you know, you gain a confidence to handle things on the fly like that.
Yeah.
So that just, it's one of those things. I think it's definitely a skill that's learned by doing. Broadcasting is, and the more you do it, the better you become and the more confident you become too.
Yeah, I can see that.
Smooth.
The more I practice, the more I'm annoyed with my old stuff.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it keeps, every time I get a little bit better, I look at something, I'm like, I can't believe I did that. I look
Yeah.
at old videos, I wasn't even making eye contact. It's so annoying.
Yeah. So I would say you guys started this firm about 5 years ago, 4 years ago.
Otter PR is 4 years old now, just turned 4.
You know, and I think kind of getting into this, I was interested in just kind of how you guys got into it because one thing that's definitely kind of cool about working here is a lot of people, I think, have a very unconventional background into this.
Yeah.
And in the month that I've been here listening to clients, that's something that seems like they like a lot. Would you say that that's paid off?
Yeah, so we really wanted to disrupt the space. What
Right.
we were looking for is not to be traditional. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. My co-founder is an entrepreneur, and we were looking at where weaknesses were. So looking at where people wanted to enter, where people had need, and honestly, PR is one where no startup could afford PR, and they were told that their story is not big enough, it wasn't going to get covered, and we just didn't believe that was true. We believed that we could help them create a story and be unique because everyone has a unique story.
Sure.
And so our strength is the storytelling, because what we did was we looked at a company that was only making $100,000 a year. We'd talk to the CEO and we'd pull out the most interesting facts, and then we would use that to find a trend of what was going on in the current news and tell their story, so it would still make national news, even though no one really cared about the business. No one really knew who the CEO or executive was, but their story matched what was going on. And through when we were founded, COVID was the biggest thing, and we would just talk about people's stories through COVID. Almost every person that came in for the first couple months, like, the news was only covering COVID, so the only thing we could talk about was COVID. So we had to figure out, how is their business being affected by COVID? What are they doing that's different? How are they thriving? We had an artist in LA who had to shut down their gallery, and they solely relied on the gallery, and they switched to virtual tours, and we actually got them picked up on LA Times, and their entire gallery sold out because of what they were doing that was unique. They were still doing, you know, basically Zoom calls for art galleries and then selling the art that way.
Yeah.
And so that was a very unique way to spin something, instead of just talking about, oh, the store's closed, like they're going out of business. We found a way to get them more business and to, you know, have their best year ever.
And kind of coming on it was on the other end of that, right? During COVID. And I think anytime, whether it's COVID or there's a big story like that, you know, especially in the TV world, like, you kind of run out of angles. So you got to feed the beast, right? But you run out of angles. So I think coming on the opposite end of that you were on, like, knowing how to capitalize on that, and how did you know, having a journalism background, how did you know to, you know, or a journal, no journalism background, how did you know how to find these stories and pitch it to journalists?
It's all about attention.
Right.
So, and this is something that I use in a sales call, is you got to imagine that every outlet, every TV station, their entire goal is views, advertising dollars, attention. So they make their money from advertising dollars, which they only get if they have enough attention, which is eyeballs and views.
Which is what is interesting.
Which is what is interesting. So it's the same thing. It's why a lot of news stations go negative. It's why a lot of news stations try to stay controversial. It's because that's what people will tune into. Breaking news, fire in, breaking news, whatever. So you have to figure out how to. At Otter, we created this process called the OTR, Outreach, Trends, and Relationships. The big piece of that is the trends. And trends, to me, is really how can I tell a story that's going to match with what the audience of today cares about. And so that's where I think we really succeeded. And you see that a lot with shorts now and social medias. There's trends. So if there's someone being canceled in the news, you'll see a lot of people talking about that and basically hijacking or trendjacking what's going on to build their social presence. And it's the same thing the news does. And that's just the strategy we've taken from the beginning. And it's helped a lot.
How do you think in terms of where we stack up against other firms?
We're the best.
I think that
100%.
Right. But how do you, it seems like they have very old school methods. How would you say that our method is different? I mean, you talked about it a little bit there. So how would you say it's different compared to your, firm in New York?
Yeah. So Edelman, largest PR firm in the world. That's by far no one can question that they are the largest PR firm in the world. What we've really focused on is we put relationships in our method, OTR, but the relationships have been the last piece for us. Like, obviously, we have to build relationships and grow them. But what we found is you can only use relationships so many times. So I can call you if you're broadcasting. You're like, hey, Dan, I have this client. They're doing this. Like, I think we can match the story.
And you can't abuse them. You can't abuse those relationships. They're not going to bite every time.
How many times can I call you before you're like, Scott, go away?
Right.
Like, this is a terrible story. I don't want to hear it. So relationships were critical. I would still want to have your personal number or have your, conversation that you're going to respond to me, but I have to feed you the correct story. And so part of our success is being that easy button for journalists. Is like you said, everyone's hungry for attention. And if you're a full-time journalist and you're supposed to create your own stories, you might have to create a story a day. You might have to create 5 stories a day. And you have, even if it's a 20-minute spot of TV, you have to fill 20 minutes of people's attention, and you can't do that with one story. So that's where we've been able to have that success, is using our relationships and not relying on our relationships, but taking the relationships and giving them support by giving them the tools they need to be successful.
I remember when we first talked, what was it? It was the summer of 2022. Yeah. Because I was at the end of a contract.
You're recruiting you and took another job.
And I was, I wasn't ready just yet. I wasn't ready just yet. But one of the things that really made me, I think it was maybe fast forward 9 months after I took that new job, I'm like, maybe I did the wrong thing here. And one of the reasons was looking at your growth, I think it was either from 2022 to 2023 or 2021 to 2022. I can't remember, but it was in a trade publication. And I was like, wow, they're growing quick and they're fast. Maybe I missed out on a good opportunity here. Like, what do you attribute to growing so quickly? It's the fastest growing PR firm in the country.
Yeah. Honestly, grit. I think that it's doing the right things repeatedly. And as a newer firm trying to make a name for ourselves, we've been way more focused on advertising. We're way more focused on outbound, way more focused on making phone calls, and a lot more focused on the results. Because a lot of our clients, especially as we started, our prices were cheap. They were $500 a month. And so these clients that $500, the thing is, it's just as hard to get $1 million check as it is to get a $500 check from the person. Like, it's just a percentage of their revenue. So it was still a massive investment for these people. And it was very much driven by the results we were able to get them. So just being able to create those case studies, create the social proof, but then do all the outbound. We probably have one of the largest sales teams of a PR size, team our size, and that's just because we're so focused on that growth. But yeah,
and I think it also, it's also finding the right clients too. As talking to prospective clients and current clients, it's finding the right clients that have the right stories, because that in turn helps us with with our track record, right?
A lot of that is, exactly. Having more successful clients will help us. So all our advertisement used to say, see if you qualify.
Right.
So we were giving that level of exclusion. So see if you qualify. Now we still do that, but we don't advertise it just because we've multiple reasons.
Right. We don't want to sound like we're turning people away or anything, but I mean,
we are.
It's finding the right fit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to I mean, it's kind of like a relationship, right?
Yeah.
You want to find the right person.
I mean, even just the raising the prices, you're getting away from people who like, $500. Someone can easily go borrow $500 from a friend and do it for a month and be like, oh, I'm not, you didn't change my business. I haven't been on national TV for the last whatever. So as we get to larger clients and those contracts go from $500 to $100,000 to $1 million, you get a better level clientele because they're already more successful and they understand.
And there's the word of mouth factor too.
Yeah.
Is the longer you go, sure.
And the word of mouth is obviously year one, you're not going to get a lot of referrals. You'll get maybe one or two. You haven't enough time. Year two, you get a couple. Year three, you get more. Where in year four, we're getting a lot more referrals, but we're also getting return customers. So we have clients that start at the 500 and they've grown with us, and maybe they took a pause for a year, but they're coming back now and they're paying the new rates because they've also grown and they know that we took a part of that.
Is there anything that's happened that, in terms of competition in the landscape that we're in, have the competitors, I don't know how much you want to get into it, but have competitors started to notice? Has it?
Yeah. So
is it?
Most PR firms know about us at this
Yeah.
point. Like competitors know who we are. Some of them like us, some of them hate us.
Right.
PR is one of those spaces where it's kind of a blue ocean. There's enough business for everyone.
Okay.
So it's kind of like an unlimited amount of business, and there's huge price variation. So like Edelman, their minimum package is probably $1 million, and that's what I've been told. And whereas ours is closer to like 20,000, whereas a freelancer is closer to 5,000 or 500. And so those variations alone will still allow enough business because Edelman's going after Apple and we're going after like that mid-level, and then you have the freelancers who are going after smaller business. So it's an unlimited amount of business, and the better you are at it, the more you can show the true value, the results,
Right.
the more success you're going to have.
And you're talking about the media landscape and the changes that we were kind of talking about at the beginning. This summer, Bob Iger, CEO of the Walt Disney Company, came out and made shockwaves kind of in the media world when he said that Disney, one of the largest TV networks, and ESPN and the ABC owned and operated TV stations throughout the country in certain markets, that may not be core to Disney. And
Yeah.
I mean that was like, I think when he said that, and he also said that streaming has been disruptive, but it was a lot more disruptive than they realized. And just what's happening with in local TV, and obviously we focus, I would say, a lot on digital publications as well. Do you think that could be spilling over into the PR world, and what impacts do you think it could be having?
Absolutely. So it's going to continue to evolve.
Right.
So in my opinion, public relations is just how are we presenting ourselves to our communications to the public, and also the private is theoretically included, but we focus more on the public side of it. So it's really any medium. So social media, we spend a little bit less time on social media, but it's where the attention is at the time.
Okay.
So a lot of times people are going to want, Forbes, and they want to be on Fox Business, and those are great. They'll get some attention. The big piece of it right now is the credibility piece of it. So a lot of those people that are hungry for, Forbes 30 under 30, is a few people read it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, probably less than 5,000. Probably less than 5,000 organically see that. But it's the credibility that you got from being recognized, and then your ability to unorganically reshare it, run advertisements to it, utilize it. Whereas social media, I still view that as part of a good PR strategy, is focused on that actual organic traffic, because that's where the attention is. Because you can post a video like this, where you have a good snippet come out of it and get 100,000 views just because. Okay. So it's everything, but it's how you're crafting your story throughout.
So I'm the new guy here.
Yeah.
A month in. This is the most I feel like we've talked because we've both been so busy. I think the company's healthy. Things are growing. Yep. Where do you see the future going for Otter? I know there's a new building this year, or 2 new buildings in the last year, right? Or about the last 2 years, year and a half. So
we got our second building. So literally a year. We bought the second building a year later. So we're continuing on growth. We're continuing growing in the PR space. One of our goals is to be a disruptor in the PR space. But what we're realizing is a good client who needs public relations and communications also needs crisis management. They also need SEO. They also need lead generation. So we've steered away from being kind of a jack of all and expert
Right.
of none. We've really wanted to be that.
Then that helps with that. That kind of hurt the PR branding, right?
Yeah, it hurts the PR
that-
branding, but it
yeah.
also, I never want to sell a whole bunch of things that we're not an expert in.
Right.
I hate landing on a website where they're like, we do literally everything.
Right.
So what we're doing is we're building out new sectors of the business that kind of feed together, but almost independently. So right now we're really focused on lead generation because we found that, a lot of people's questions, what is the ROI? And ROI in PR is fuzzy because
and it's also something you're good at. I mean,
Right.
this is a very crack
yeah.
lead gen team. I mean, it's
we're really good at
Yeah.
producing leads, and so that was something we've been doing really well for ourselves.
and your clients have been very happy in that space too. I
yeah,
mean, it's
yeah.
that's
So
what I've
we
heard.
basically we spent the last year building out this industry, and we'll probably spend out another 3 to 6 months really refining the process and really making sure we're an expert. Instead of what other firms might do is bring in a contractor and have them run this and kind of do a good job and just really focus on the dollars. We're not moving on until that's a multi-million-dollar business. So each vertical that we build will be a multi-million-dollar business that's running successfully and in its own right an industry leader.
So could like Otter PR, Otter Leads, Otter Marketing, could a Otter Creative
Yeah.
happen
So
5-10 years down the road? Is that kind of
Exactly.
is there a timeline on that?
We own the domain for Otter Agency.
Okay.
We also own Otter Marketing, but the idea is that we'll probably keep the name Otter PR as
Right.
the main, but we have the trademark Otter, and that's really we own the trademark Otter for all marketing, and so that's really the idea is that we'll be. I really like the term communication, but it doesn't resonate with as many people because they don't really truly understand what communication means in sales, in marketing. And what I mean by that is it's literally always how you're communicating your story, how you're presenting yourself, and how you're bringing in those leads. So your sales funnels, everything you're doing is communicating. And that, to me, is our goal is to be communication experts, even down to graphic design, because that is a piece of your brand and your communication. It all fits under communications.
And it seems like you're, as you grow, you're being very, you're saying we want to make sure we're the best.
Yeah.
Right. You're being very surgical about the growth of this organization.
Yeah. So any startup, especially if you don't bring in a seasoned vet, is going to have mistakes and errors. And so we don't want to make that with a whole bunch of clients. We want to go really slowly, give cheap products, give discounts. We give guarantees. So if for some reason we don't hit a goal, we'll just keep working for free, basically. And so we're experimenting and working with clients to grow these services. Now our lead gen just hit 1 year old, and we're ready to run. We're running, and but even with that scale piece of it, you'll have scale issues. So while it works really well for the 20 clients that we have, once you go from 20 to 60, you're going to have a scale issue. Your systems will start breaking down, things like that. And we really saw that with the PR side is going from, 1 to 10 clients was great because one person could manage that. Then you had to bring in a second person, they're training. So there's all these scale issues that come with it. So we have to go slow enough that we recognize that issues aren't a bad thing, but that we can fix them without affecting the client's campaigns.
Got it. Excellent.
So you've been with us 3 weeks?
No, not 3 weeks. I think it was
3 weeks?
November 6th was my first day in office.
First day in office, account executive, doing sales.
Right.
First sale was 2 weeks in?
Maybe 3 weeks. There was also there was Thanksgiving, and
Yeah,
we had a
Thanksgiving.
couple
November's
days that were
no one made sales in November.
burn days.
Thanksgiving
right.
is
Yeah.
like an off time for everyone. Okay, awesome. So it's really exciting that I think you just made your third sale for a year contract.
Yeah.
So that's incredible. What was that first win like for you with that first sale?
I mean, I think it's really interesting. I like getting to know, them as like a client, not just a prospect, because it's like trying to figure out, okay, are we a good fit for them? Are they a good fit for us? Can we help each other? Do we think we can have a successful campaign? Right. And I think it's, every client that I've been able to work with so far, like they've got really good stories, and I think we're going to have a lot of success for them. And that's kind of like been exciting to like figure out, like to work with them on these calls and to figure out like, okay, what makes them unique? Like being a former reporter, like what about their story is going to be interesting to a reporter, to a journalist, and figuring out how to come up with a strategy. So I like obviously I like the business development aspect of it, but also the strategy aspect of it is fun too, and I think that's kind of what I've really liked about this
Have you started to see the different personalities when you talk to
Definitely, yeah, for sure.
Have you done disc training before?
I have not. No,
Okay.
I have not. And but it's kind of like, I think it's very like the skill sets. I mean, a lot of it is kind of doing the same job in a way. I feel like that I used to, because a lot of the the skill sets kind of transferable because you
Absolutely.
deal with all kind of
Communications.
different people every day.
It's literally just
And it's
communication.
rapid fire for sure.
Yeah, we got to get you through the disc personality,
Okay.
but it's so cool to see as you bring in and can identify the different personalities and how they communicate. It makes you such a better salesperson because
Right.
you're understanding. Like I am a little bit of an anomaly, but I lead in 3 categories. But one of mine is analytical, so I'm on the C, shadowing.
Okay.
But basically, I'm very interested in numbers, metrics, what my results are going to look like, what are those deliverables, and then what's the cost. And that's like I typically don't even need to talk to someone. I just want to see what the expectations are. If I'm on a sales call, I'll just be like, I want to confirm things, and I'll confirm if they make a mistake. Like if their website says one thing and you say something else, gone.
Got it. Okay.
So there's so many different types of sales process.
Interesting.
Yeah. Awesome, Dan. Well, it's been great
Yeah.
having you on the show. How will people
do it
reach out
again.
to you?
What is it? I'm sorry.
People reach out to you. How can they find you?
I've got my LinkedIn at Dan Matics, and then Twitter is DMatics TV.
Awesome.
So there's that. I think I've got to maybe take the TV off of it, but
That's okay.
we'll figure that out.
You guys can find him. So Dan will be hosting Scaling Secrets, a lot of our local in studio. So you guys will hear a lot more from him, but we're excited to have you and welcome to the team.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah.